Welcome to the Navigator podcast.
Welcome to the Navigate Academy. This session is supporting Module 21, Client Coordination Meeting. Our guest today is Chuck Espinoza, Principal Instructor for AVIXA and the Infocom University. Chuck and I are friends with many similarities, with a passion for quality and continuous process improvement. Chuck is a lifelong learner, practitioner, and teacher, having also trained thousands of participants around the world. He regularly consults with companies and technology management departments to improve their processes and training certification practices across an array of skills. Chuck has the whole alphabet of certifications behind his name, and he also knows how to use them. So he has a list of smart people who listen to him. I'm one of them. He's continually an evangelist for the industry, seeking to foster and share best practices across companies from large to small. So thanks, Chuck. It's always good to see you.
Thanks, Brad. It's nice to be seen.
Yes, exactly. So in your vast experience working with hundreds of companies, again, thousands of people on both sides, so technology management organizations, clients organizations, integrators, how important is a structured client coordination meeting?
Well, so your client coordination meetings, they're not really that important unless you want your project to work.
Okay. All right. I was wondering, where is he going with that? But okay.
Yeah.
In other words, they're vital.
Yeah. You can shoot from the hip. You will miss most of the time, but you can do it. So the way I look at your client coordination meetings, especially the initial one, is you have a project that you're building something. You're building a new system, you're building a new room, a huddle space, even just something as simple as like digital signage, for a small store. So on this building that you're making, you can have the best artisan carpenters and the best drywallers for your house and the best roof makers or the best interior decorators. And it all doesn't matter if your foundation is built on sand.
Got it.
You have to have a good foundation to the project. And if you don't, the project's going to crumble. I don't care who is the best of whatever they're doing, the best programmers, the best designers. If you don't have a good foundation to that project, a good timeline, a good scope, and a good budget understanding, your project's going to crumble. And that initial client coordination meeting, this is where I come out with my agenda. This is the first meet, first date, whatever you want to call it, the initial first meeting. And this is where the client knows how we're going to operate the project. And as a project manager, I come out and I have a list of documentation for the initial client meeting. Before we even get to the initial client meeting, I will send them a list, a week or so in advance of who I would like to have there. Yep. If there's going to be anything on a network infrastructure, I want the land administrator, the land manager, security manager, whoever I can get to represent the IT or the land department. And I say land because IT is AV and IT all together. I mean, AV is part of information technology. So the land section, I want them to meet with the AV, the audio and video section, and we need to meet with the project section and the budget section. And I have a list of questions for every single person there before we even start, before I know who they are. I already have a list of questions. I want to know how long before we deploy anything on a network infrastructure, that what the land department needs from me. Do they need names, serial numbers, firmware, blah, 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 whatever. And so I want to set this coordination expectation right from the get-go that, hey, before we meet, we got to do homework. And everybody has to figure out, because I'm not going to get here and go, oh yeah, that's interesting, maybe we should do that. I want to get there and say, okay, I need this. You guys are going to get this from me. We're going to do this, that, and the other thing. We need to develop a first day of actual use, and then we'll work back from there, right? I got to know where I'm going to know how to get there, know what I want. So I come in as a project manager or even a sales engineer with a slew of things ready to go. I have an agenda, and I have no problem sharing that agenda. I type it up, I send it out prior to the meeting. So
you're building handoffs. I mean, yeah. and ensuring that people know what those are. So I like to think about, I'm building a no excuse zone.
Yeah.
And again, we built accountability. I sent the agenda. It's not an interrogation.
No.
I'm a professional. You're professionals. We're going to manage this
I think
professionally.
it's exactly the opposite of an interrogation. You don't
Right,
have to
exactly.
pull information out of me. I am more than willing to give you any information I have.
Right.
And I would like that to be shared across the board. So even if there's something you think, hey, I don't know if you need to know this or not, but I'm going to tell you about it. Yes, please do, because chances are that's going to impact what I do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really important. If you want your product or your project or whatever you're building to succeed, to keep within budget, within scope, within schedule, you have to have all of those things
Right.
from the very get-go, and you have to establish that this is the way this thing's going to run.
How I'll hear all the time is like, well, this one's a small one. We don't need one. What are your thoughts on that?
So I hear that, and even though I've heard it a billion times, I still get the same exact look on my face, like, I attribute that statement to this. I sit on the couch. I eat Cheetos on a beanbag and watch TV. Next month, I'm going to run a marathon, and I'm not going to train or run a mile or anything I'm not going to get off the couch until the day I have to run that marathon. What are my chances of success? Not just winning, but finishing, surviving, right?
Right.
If you don't hone your processes, and processes are fluid, they're living things, you can improve them every single time you do them. If you don't hone your processes on the small, $30,000, $40,000 projects, $10,000 projects, when you get to the $1 million projects and $2 million projects, you're going to fail miserably. Your processes aren't going to be mature. They're not going to be practiced. Your discipline's going to be out the window, because as we know in the military, the thing that keeps you from dumping excrement in your clothing when bullets start flying at you is training.
Yep.
When stress hits, training kicks in. And unless you are completely 100% trained versus these processes are your second nature, you're going to deviate back to sitting on the couch eating Cheetos. And if I hire a company and they say, well, we only do those processes on the big things, on the little ones, we'll just shoot from the hip, they're not going to get the big ones from me. They're not there, unless your process is your process for a reason. And it doesn't matter if I'm training for the AVIXA 5K or a marathon. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go for a run every single morning. I get up and work out. It doesn't matter if I'm training for anything. I get up and I run and I work out, and that's just my thing. So when I have to do a 5K, like 2 days before, I'm not stressed out. I'm not trying to carb load or do anything. That's like, it's tying my shoes. It's getting up and doing the thing I've done every day. And that's what professionalism, being a professional, is about, is your job like the back of your hand. You do the same thing every single day. It doesn't matter if you're fighting an army or a boxing match, you fight the same way.
Right. How, and again, you've worked with hundreds of companies, as have I. What were some of the characteristics of those companies that part of process discipline was just in their DNA?
Well, it's very much, first off, there's kind of either a written down or a referenceable process for just about everything. And if there wasn't, we would sit down and make one. If we had something new come up, we would see what it was similar to, what kind of process that kind of fit, and then how could we tweak that process. We already did the legwork. I don't want to reinvent the wheel on every single task. It only hurts the first time. It's like working out. When you work out for the first time after a long time, your muscles are sore. But after like a month, you're like, oh, this feels great. It only hurts the first couple times. And it really hurts the first couple times. But after you get over that hump, it's great. And every single time afterward is great. And every employee in that company knows we have a process. We don't deviate from the process. Or if we do, we have a process for that deviation.
Right.
And it's surprising how it's funny, because I often hear, these big companies that have 2,000 plus employees, that's great for them, but we only have 30 employees. I'm like, well, how do you think they got 2,000 plus employees? Like,
exactly. No, exactly.
You start with a thing, with a recipe, and you get good at that recipe and you write it out so other people can get good at it. And if it needs to be tweaked, you tweak it just a little bit. Like, if you look at any Betty Crocker recipe. They say you do this. If you're at high altitude, you do this. It's going to be a little bit different, but we've tried it and experimented. If you want crispier things, you add less moisture. If you want
Right.
moister things, you add more milk or whatever. And they know every little thing about their process.
Yep.
And it's when something, the great part is when something happens to that process, hey, we've dealt with this before. This is how it works. We know if we do this thing, it won't work. And we've tried it several times.
Well, there's always that then continuous learning. I mean, some people will say, well, should I invite sales to these? What sales' role in these? You know, I'm always, it's just part of the process. Sales should be talking this up as part of their sales process. You will have one of these, and I may attend or I may not, but it's a clean handoff.
So sales, to me, it's funny. I usually don't call my sales people sales. I don't think they're trying to sell anything. You know, when I think of somebody trying to sell something, I think of like a carnival barker or a used car salesman. Hey, you know, we could do this for you. And once you buy the product, they're done. My account managers, the people who I like to work with, they're relationship builders, and they are the most important person in this process because they're building the relationship of, hey, this is the way we do things, and it's going to benefit you like this. I could show you from past projects how it has benefited us from this. A stitch in time really saves 9. It really does. So they have to, quote unquote, sell the process. They don't have to sell the product. They don't have to sell the company. Most of the time they have to sell the process. They have to be an evangelist or a coach for the discipline because the client will want to. It's just like if they're a trainer and they're training somebody who hasn't worked out. And I go to these workout references a lot, or cooking, because it's a lifestyle thing. It really is a lifestyle. And they have to keep their person from sitting on the couch and eating Cheetos. They have to keep their client or our client from backsliding into, well, we just shot from the hip last time and it worked. Yeah, but
it worked in that moment in time, but we don't want to. We can't replicate it. We can't improve it. We can't measure it. So,
and how do they define work? Like, was it easy for them? And on the back end, like we were doing redesigns, and you know, we had a punch list that was 20 deep, and they're like, oh, they got a punch list, but they'll take care of it. And so we have to have it done by Monday morning. At Friday, are my technicians still there? Are they going to be there on Saturday, on Sunday? We're stressing out. We're ordering stuff overnight red, and you know, and we're freaking out. The client doesn't see that. So all the client sees is a company, a vendor that wants to satisfy their contract and make the client happy. So they're jumping and going through hell and high water to do this thing, but they're stressing everybody out. And it's like that. It's like your slide where it has the little up, and then it gets to the top and it's explosions, and then we're done. Let's go on to the next thing. Let's not have an after action to talk about what we did. Let's just do the next thing again. So sales roles, account managers roles, are really that coach that keeps the client going to the workout, that keeps them off.
Very interesting point.
Off the beanbag, you know.
So it comes back to vital, and to me, that hour is setting up, transitioning part of the relationship. Again, sales always has it, but now it's moving it to another professional. But that hour is going to save anywhere from 20 to 50 hours later on.
Oh yeah, totally.
And just the investment in trust. So great. Yeah. We always like to build out our library. What book have you been reading recently, and what are you learning from it?
So I'm actually in the last stretches of getting all my RUs for my PMP renewal. It's October. And I have a book I'm working on right now. It is called Making Things Happen, Mastering Project Management Theory and Practice.
Okay.
It is by Scott Birkin.
Okay.
And it's talking about how you actually manage. When you're the project manager, you have all this discipline and you have these processes that you do, and you have all these people around you that don't want to do it. How do you get them to get on board?
Got it.
So it's very much a little bit of psychology, a little bit of organization. it's a good read. I have the book, so when I'm at home, I can sit there and read it. And I'm also getting ready to teach up in New York at West Point. I'm doing a CTS
Oh, awesome.
prep
Good for
for
you.
West Point. So I bought the audio book so I can listen to it for 6 hours on the way up, and hopefully before the class I can get it all finished. That's what I'm reading now.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chuck. It's good to see you, and I look forward to InfoComm this year.
Yeah, good to see you too. I'm so excited. It's been so long. I can't wait to see everybody. I can't wait to teach and see the show.
Right.
Blah blah blah. I can't wait to see all my friends. Like I'm getting anxious for it. I really am.
Yep, exactly. It's not too far away. Again, thank you.
Thank you.